Welcome back to JOJ. If you watched last week, then you know we started our new monthly series with the word integrity. And last week we talked about integrity in your job and school. And this week we're going to talk about marriage.
Yeah, it should be a fun topic.
Yeah. So the Bible verses that we picked out are, I'll do the first one.
Okay.
Proverbs 12:22. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are His delight.
Yep, and then Luke 16:10 is the other one, and it is, one who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. In your marriage, it does seem like those are places where the devil definitely can use to creep in. Little bitty, little small lies. Don't seem like much. Those are definitely places that the devil will use to start to drive a wedge in.
Yeah, definitely. Because we've talked about that before, especially I feel like in our marriages, the devil wants nothing more than for you to be unhappy and, not close with God, not close with your spouse, not close with your kids, your family. Like he would much rather families be completely demolished and separated, because it makes ugly messes and and sometimes out of ugly messes you get beautiful scenarios, but at the same time, like anybody that's where God is first in your marriage, that it is, the devil works constantly in little tiny things, and like Lot said, just to create that wedge,
those
just enough
seeds, those little seeds that he'll plant, and that he will whisper those words in your ears of, well, what about this, well, what about that, and those little bitty things, and whether there actually is anything, those are the places where the devil will create that little bit of doubt. And then if somebody ever does slip up and it's like, well, I was actually here, nothing was bad, but I was, this was that, or that was this, and then that little seed of doubt now has taken root. Yeah. Because of a seemingly small lie that was told. So that's why, in a marriage, being completely truthful, completely honest, 100% of the time is so very important. Yeah.
In all aspects of it, just from, and like I said, we haven't really had like any major issues with this. I feel like we're
maybe, I know of.
maybe a little too honest. Anywho, so yeah, that's in and I don't even know that it's just necessarily lying as it is of like just not saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's definitely that too. I mean, it's like withholding the whole story. You may feel better about it because you didn't technically lie, but you didn't share everything in that either, and that definitely can begin to break down the integrity of your marriage in that situation, for sure. And our our relationships, like we dated, for about a year in high school, and just after, and we're engaged, for about a year. And even in that time of that 2-year period, there was never any time during that, I'm gonna say 2-year span, where we ever lost integrity in each other or in our relationship then either. Yeah. And that was kind of what I liked about Luke 16:10. That's that verse. Most people, and I mean most of what I've always read it, and I think the context that it's in is talking about like a talent somebody is given, and a talent in that time was a day's wage. Was what you were actually paid with. Money, a currency. Somebody who was trusted with a little bit. When God, the parable of the talents, when God trusts those people with a little bit, and that they went out and made more with it and brought it back, but the one who had just the one talent, buried it, hid it, returned it to his master. He wasn't as trustworthy with just that little bit. And that's mostly what you hear about this verse, in my opinion. That's kind of where I felt like it's always kind of been taught. But I think in our relationships, and if you're new in a relationship, or young or whatever that case may be, the way you are treated and the way you treat the other person in that relationship at a young age, early in it, anything for it, that sets the groundwork. Early in our relationship, if we hadn't been true to each other, not talking to other people, not going out on dates with other people, anything like that, if we'd have been, or just casual, just kind of seeing, seeing where things go, that creates a seed of doubt that I don't know, I can't speak for experience, but I feel like that would never go away.
I wouldn't think so. And that's crazy. I was like, you're mine.
You ain't grown out of it either.
Really. I've improved. Abby's taken over.
You've passed it on.
I've passed it on. But yeah, and I think too, and it's important, especially if you're young and you're, listen to this, because it's easy for us to sit here and be like, we are so secure in our marriage. Like, I don't worry if he has a conversation with the woman that's behind him at the grocery store. Like, I'm not going to flip out. But like when you're young and crazy anyway, because you're young, your hormones are all wacko too, and so I mean, especially for girls, I don't know that guys were some are very, but being young and being in relationships, when it's so hard to not be jealous and to not be, just overly bearing. And, and one thing, and I know we talk about Abby a lot and she'll yell at us for it, but because she's at that age where she's in high school, there's boys or a boy, I better not say there's boys, she'll really be like, Mom. But, and I tell her, I try to say to her, if you are not secure in your relationship with him, then don't be in that relationship. Like, if you feel like you have to be psycho crazy jealous, or vice versa, if he has to feel that way, you're not ready for a relationship. Like, and I know that's hard advice because I was young, like, you want a boyfriend, like, you want somebody to tell you you're pretty. And I'd say take you out and buy you dinner, but
you never know how that's going to go.
Second date, he'll probably tell you to buy you dinner, but, just whatever. We had that conversation this morning, so it's fresh. But yeah, so it's just, if you're younger, and I know this was on marriage, but dating leads to marriage, and so you got to start there. And to be honest, like Ott said, we were in high school, so there were things that came up here or there, but like I feel like it was usually me, so I was always forthcoming, like, listen, this is what happened, this was who was there, like it was just, this is it. So
I never had to dig for anything to be was it? And I tell you, there wasn't social media, there wasn't as much craziness as what there is now, but it was, so I could
have got away with stuff. But
yeah, I was probably asleep getting ready to go fishing. So, but there was never, a time when I was like, oh, why didn't you mention that? There was never any of that.
There wasn't any like after things of of
finding something out down the road. It was like, well, you never said anything about this. There was never any of that. So.
And so I think that's important too, that if you're going to be young in a relationship, well, even if you're a little bit older and dating,
age is irrelevant
is to just always, as hard as it may be in the moment, is to be forthcoming. That way it's like, it's on the table. There's nothing, if you're not trying to hide it, then I feel like that's, that speaks volumes, which again, like I tell our kids that, I'm like, if you're honest with me, if you like, break something or whatever and I ask you about it and you lie about it, I'm not going to believe you the next time I ask something because you lied about something so simple. Like if you've done something and you're going to be in trouble, but you're like, hey, like, this is what I did, then one, your punishment's probably going to be a little less because I'm going to be proud that you were bold enough to come and say, hey, this is what I did wrong.
The prime example of that, not long ago, we let the kids go to sleep with a timer on their TVs in the room. And I go in there and I asked Parker, I was like, did you set the timer? And he said, yeah. And I don't even know why I ask it, because I don't always. I said, did you set it for 30 minutes? Yeah. But I could tell by his answer.
He tells on himself pretty easy.
So I go get the remote and check it, and he'd set it for an hour. I'm like, why did you why did you lie to me? Well, I was wanting to watch TV long, blah blah blah. It helps me go to sleep. I'm like, well, if you're watching it, you're not going to sleep. Whatever. But
I know he's like his mom though. His brain doesn't shut off, and so he's.
And I told him, I said, if you would have told me you set it for an hour, I would have laughed. I would have went and got the remote. I would have fixed it. That would have been that. But instead, now I'm unplugging your power cord and I'm taking it with me. You're not going to have it for a week. I was like, you shouldn't have lied about it. Yeah. All you had to say was, no, Dad, I set it for an hour. I'd have laughed. I'd have fixed it. That'd have been the end of it.
Yeah. And I think that, and I know we focus a lot about like on lying or being dishonest or anything like that, but I think that also includes like if you're upset or frustrated, like instead of just like,
oh, this is a good point.
I eventually say something. I might hold it in for a few days.
I didn't even get to this till you said it.
That is I'm done. Check out. I'm done. Go ahead.
So if she's ever mad at me for anything, instead of explaining her side of the story, I'm expected to just know. Now, guys, you'll relate to this. If I truly knew going into it, I probably wouldn't have made the complete mistake that I already made. You know, maybe it may have been worth it. So I may have, but the fact that it takes her like at least a day or two to stew on it before she'll ever say, "Why did you do that?"
I like to give him an opportunity to think back and to think, how was I hurtful? And I think it's a good opportunity for you to try to figure it out.
And because it takes so long,
and then get more angry.
It just hurts more, and it makes her more mad. So it's a bad slope you go down. If you would just tell me right from the get-go.
I know, but in the moment, I'm so mad that if I tell you, I'm going to not probably be very nice. So
well, at least
in
it's
my
over
mind,
with quicker.
It's not the point. The point is I try to like reflect and not be angry.
Right.
And say hurtful things in the moment.
I can deal with that though. I'm kind of like Lizzie. I mean, you say it. I know you're mad at whatever.
I don't, but then I would feel bad and I wouldn't sleep. So all of this goes back to me being able to sleep. And so I'd like to think about it.
Yeah.
Doesn't the Bible say not to be quick to lash out or something?
It also says don't go to bed angry.
Oh, well, that might be a problem sometimes. But it's fine. We're fine. We're good right now.
Yeah.
We're not mad. He's been gone for a long time. Yeah. He's only here 30 hours. Yeah. Surely you can keep it together.
We'll see.
30 hours. Proverbs 12:22. Yep. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are his delight.
And Luke 16:10. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. So thank y'all for watching. Yep. Come back next week. We will be jumping into integrity.
Flip our little thing.
And this topic is when no one is looking.
It's a good one.
Yep. See you then.